Hey everyone, I am here with day 9 of my 2021 Christmas series, and for today's project I'm going to be featuring Hero Arts. This stamp and die set is called Holiday Ornaments Bundle. Now I am going to apologize, I have the most awesome cold right now and it's lasting forever, so I do apologize for my voice. And if words sounds different, that's because it's in my nose. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm pulling off all of the ornament stamps and I've cut a slimline piece of cardstock. When I make my slim lines, they are usually 3.5 by 8.5. That's usually the size that I go with. I'm taking all of these ornaments and I'm lining them up along this piece. I'm using Simon Says stamp, fog, ink, because I want them to be in the background. I don't want them to have bright, vibrant colors. And you can do that with any stamps that you may have in your stash. Just because we have a stamp doesn't mean we have to stamp it in black and color it in. We can create a background. And that's what I'm doing with these right now. The Fog Ink by Simon Says is great for no line coloring as well. But these colors now, I stamped them like 3 times, but it's a great ink. It pushes to the back. And again, that's what I'm kind of going for when it comes to this look. Just to create that background, but also have it sitting down. So I'm not filling up the entire piece of cardstock because we don't need to do that all the time either, just to give this illusion. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'm now going to take those same ornaments because I'm not quite sure which ones I wanted to do for my coloring. So I figured let's just stamp them all. And this time I'm going to stamp them in my Versamark or Versafine black. And then I'm going to come in with my Wow clear matte embossing powder. I am loving this embossing powder. Still working with it though, because it is different. It does not dry glossy, or when after it's melted, it actually looks like it's glossy, but then when it's done cooling down, it goes to matte. So it's really cool. I really like this embossing powder. I'm going to heat set these ornaments, and once they are all melted, I am going to pull out my Derwent watercolor pencils. Haven't done any projects with some watercolor pencils lately, so I figured, why not? Let's have some fun with our supplies that we have in our stash. What's great with watercolor pencils is you don't have to put a lot of color down. They are not the same as colored pencils. So by just putting a little bit of color down on one side, you're able to pull that through and you can mix your colors as well. What I like to do with my watercolors is actually color all the images, color everything, and then come back in either with a brush and water or a water brush and just mix those colors along. I don't like to overwork my watercolor pencils. And what I mean by that is add layer after layer after layer. When I have that first layer, that's where I usually stop. Very rarely will I come back, unless I'm adding flick line details with my watercolor pencils. That I will do. But you can see, as I'm mixing these colors, I had 2 shades of green there. It looks like it's shaded because I put it to one side, which is what I'll do with those, because I'll layer those colors right on top. But again, when it comes to your watercolors, the only thing you want to do is just get a little bit of pigment down. The paper that I am working on is my Canson XL Bristol Vellum. It's got a little bit of tooth, and that's the difference between the vellum and the smooth. The smooth is just that. It is smooth. The vellum has a little bit of texture. And I do like that one. To me, they are both the same, and both could be used for this. Could also use your watercolors, or excuse me, your watercolor paper. I do like the Canson XL for that as well. So you can see I'm just moving these through. I do like to have a stiff brush when I use my watercolor pencils. This way it really gets into the tooth of the paper and moves that pigment around. The brush that I'm using is from a set that I got a little bit ago. Unfortunately, it's no longer available, but it is by Craft Mo. But it's got some great, nice, stiff bristles, and I think it moves the pigment very well. I'm going to continue through with these ornaments. Again, doing the same thing, only bringing that pigment across halfway because my water is going to pull it out the rest of the way. I also think watercolor pencils are great if you're looking for a light layer of color. If I'm looking to really saturate an image with color, watercolor pencils are not my go-to. I'll use my watercolors, I'll use my colored pencils. Of course, you can use your alcohol markers. But watercolor pencils to me are for soft shades and not that intense, bold color. Once I was done coloring those, I've come in with my Versamark pen with the clear ink, and I'm just doing some details on each of these ornaments, and then I'm going to use my silver and my gold embossing powder by Recollections, and I'm going to then heat set those. Once I have these all heat set, I will use the coordinating dies and cut these out using my Spellbinders 6. Took care of the sentiment, and I did use the sentiment that came with the stamp set, and that says Merry Christmas. I love the font. It's a little bit different. And again, I'm going to use my Wow Clear Matte Embossing Powder, and we will heat set that until that's all melted. Now that I have these ornaments stamped in the background, and they're a little bit darker than normal because I stamped them multiple times, I'm going to add some twine to the ornaments that I chose, that I colored, and I'm going to attach them. I'm going to use double-sided foam squares, and I'm going to attach them onto the front of this panel. Now I'm going to play around a little bit with their placement because I don't want them, try not to put them near one that I've stamped for the background next to each other, but it's okay because it's going to look like a shadow. But these three ornaments are going to pop off the page, but you're still going to see the silhouettes or the background print behind them to add just a little bit of dimension to the card. Now that I finally figured out my placement, I'm going to take the ends of the twine coming up off those ornaments, and I'm going to tape them to the back of this panel. This panel will be placed onto a black mat that is 1/4 larger. So the white panel here was cut 3 inches by 8 inches. The black panel is going to be cut 3 1/4 by 8 1/4. And then my final panel is going to be cut 3 1/2 by 8 1/2. I'm going to use double-sided tape to adhere this panel here onto the black panel. And that's only because of those strands of the twine. It's a lot of dimension. Usually I'll use double-sided foam tape, but I did not want to do that this time. Once all of my mats are together, I am going to put this onto my slimline card base, and we're just going to add some gems. And yes, I'm coming close to a new wax pencil to lift up my gems. Yes, you can see how tiny that is. Just added a few different colors to accent the colors that were used for those ornaments. So I really do hope you enjoyed day 9. And again, I am so sorry for my voice. I think this is going to hang around for a while. So 'tis the season, but I do know it is a cold, which is wonderful. So I'll take this. As always, the products that I used will be listed down below as long as they are available. If they're not, I will put a note there. Remember, dig into our stash. That's what I'm doing. That's this year's theme. And I'm having fun with it. I'm finding things that I didn't know I had, and I'm sure you will too. If you have any questions or comments, please make sure you leave those down below. Please don't comment that you can't understand me with my cold. I would greatly appreciate that. And again, I do apologize, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. Enjoy your day. Enjoy this process. I will always tell you that we make art and it's all unique and beautiful. But most of all, always remember what's most important. Always be creative. Until the next video, guys, take care.